All right. Welcome, everybody, to this recording of the Patriotic Dragon radio show. A show to have open, honest, thoughtful conversation about issues from the county, the state, and the nation and the world. Brought to you by the Pickens County GOP, as well as this month's sponsor, Aspire to Inspire Before You Expire.org, a website committed to people sharing their aspirations, their inspirations for today and tomorrow. I want to thank WYYZ, our host radio station, and Rocco's Pub for letting us take up the space at this fine venue. I've already had dinner, so I'm good. Hopefully everybody else gets a chance to taste it. I want to welcome our guest for the show this week, Sharon Troglin, our tax commissioner for Pickens County.
Thank
Sharon,
you. Nice to be here.
Thank you for being on. Roy Dobbs, Chief Tax Assessor for the county.
Chief Appraiser.
Chief Appraiser, okay. Well, to me, it's almost the same thing.
I understand.
Chief Appraiser. All right. And our special guest this week's Mickey Tuck. Mickey, thanks for being on. Yep. And part of our regular panelist on, Craig Stallings.
Howdy.
David Leister.
Hello.
And Bill Cagle.
How you doing this evening?
Good. All right. I want to kind of, first thing I normally do at this point is make sure that everybody knows that the discussions and opinions on the show are that of the guest and not necessarily the Pickens County GOP or the sponsor of the radio show. These are our opinions, and discussions are based that way. Sharon, again, thank you for being on. What we would like to talk about, and I'll start with you. I always start with the prettiest person in the room, and there's nobody here but you that's pretty, so you were first up.
Thank you.
Some questions have come up, and of course, there's a couple of groups in Pickens County who are concerned about the tax base and delinquent taxes and that type of thing. So what I did was actually post it out and get questions from those concerned citizens, and I want us to just kind of go through those, and I'll ask them, and then if you would, just you can give us what information and responses, okay? The first question that's come up is focusing in on the tax collections in Pickens County. How can you explain to the public what state or county code is used to determine the tax sales due to delinquencies and the time frame that's specified to deal with those property tax delinquencies?
The state code section is Title 48, Chapter 4, and Title 9, Chapter 13. Unfortunately, there's not a certain code set. It starts and it goes from, it just spreads out through those chapters about the tax sale, how it is to be performed and everything. What we do after we send out the bills, they have a 60-day due date. After that, interest occurs the next day after the taxes are due. When interest rolls each month, 1%, and after 90 days, an additional 10% is added to the taxes. After that time, we send out letters of intent to FIFA to put a lien against the property if it's not paid, allowing them 30 days to make payment. If payment is not made during that time, then our company that we hired to do our tax collections for us, they send out second letters, third letters, fourth letters. Eventually, these properties will go to tax sale. They're running our local paper for 4 weeks. If the taxpayer should come in to pay the taxes during that time, we pull it from the paper and we take what's left to sell. For instance, we had a tax sale October the 6th. We took 40 properties to sell. Out of that 40, we sold 5. And that's our process, usually how it goes each year. We're determined out of 159 counties, as to when they'll have our tax sales. They usually do it on a Tuesday, but they have so many counties that they're having to go back and forth to do them. We have them when they schedule us to have one, and that's how it's brought about.
And just to clarify, the outside company that we're using that handles the paperwork and the continuing of sending it out, do they also, which we had discussed on a previous show, some properties where say a contractor, somebody had purchased the property, then they just vacated, stopped working on it, and didn't resolve or dissolve their LLC or corporation, does that company do any of the legwork trying to find that person who's
They
responsible?
notify any parties that have any interest in the property. They send notification, certified mail, and we receive it back. It goes in the file for that tax sale.
Okay. But they don't go out and Google it and trying to find the people that way? It has to be
I'm
somebody.
not sure their process. There is a company called, let me think. The name left me. But they use this company that charges like 25 cents a hit to find these taxpayers.
Okay.
They do that, and they locate them that way, and they send notification to them. So
okay.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
so-
cut and dried.
Okay. Yeah. So if a contractor bails out of Pickens County, but he's living in DeKalb County, whatever, they'll find him that way, and
Right.
he'll get the letter. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Anybody on the panel have anything on that particular question?
What happens to the balance? Like you said, you sold 5, so do the other 35 go back to be sold the next time?
Right, they stay on the digest, and they'll take them back the next year. They'll try to continue to sell them. Hopefully they'll sell, but a lot of times they don't. But we do take them periodically back to tax sale.
Okay. All right. And on those, I know it's required evidently by the statute that we show them in the paper here, but are we responsible for, or are we allowed to advertise them on a larger scale of properties that are up for sale on the tax sale?
Well, I've never been approached with that. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I just
Now, some counties, which we're trying to get with our website, they list their tax sales, the people on their tax sales, they list them on the website, and that's helpful. And we're talking with them now about trying to do stuff like that for us that will, when people go in to view our website, they see who's down for tax sale.
okay.
What
All
property's
right.
being
So
sold.
basically add a tab or whatever to it. Okay. All right. That helps. All right. The next question: when the tax sales are not used, what options are implemented for the collection of the delinquent taxes? And really, the question there is, what's that criteria, and how long has this method been used?
We go out in gratis, which is the motor vehicle part of our collections. Anybody that owes personal property, real property, we go out and we put a warning on that tag that goes out statewide. So if they're out there anywhere, it's hard to find an individual unless we have a complete name for them. In other words, if it's just John Doe and no middle name, there could be 25 pages of John Does, and it's hard to determine which John Doe we're looking for.
Sure.
But if we have a full name, we can usually go out and gratis and find them, and we'll put a warning out there. And if any of the counties in the state of Georgia see this message that we have in there, they will not tag their vehicles until they notify us and we get these taxes paid.
They have to pay it before they're allowed to tag the vehicle.
We have also we have been talking with land development. When these people come in to renew their business license,
Yeah.
make sure that property taxes are paid, or don't issue them their license until they pay.
Okay. All right. All right. And how long have we been using that method as far as the tag part, the automobile tag part?
Now that just started last year with the tags. We weren't really sure that we could do that until we checked with when we were in Athens at our training. We asked some of the Department of Revenue trainees, and they told us that we couldn't put a hold, but we could put a warning out there. So that's what we've been doing.
Oh, okay. All right. So they can technically still they can still pay their tag if the tag comes up Muskogee County.
Right, but they have to contact us before, their tag, that they have to make some kind of arrangements to make this payment satisfied before they get their tag.
Before they get their tags. Okay. All right. All right. Next question. Is there currently a payment plan in use for paying back taxes? And how long have we been using that? And what are the terms that we set for those payments?
What we do, it's we have a form that we have drafted to allow them to, like, after the 60 days, there is a 90-day period before the 10% penalty goes on. We allow them to pay if they're having hardship, to come in and pay it that way. But it's nothing it's not a partial payment. We're allowing them to do what most of them have done in the past anyway. A lot of times, if they don't pay by the due date, a lot of them would wait until right before the 10% penalty. But now we make them come in and sign a form, making them aware that if you don't pay these taxes, it will go to tax sale.
Okay. All right. So they have to come in, do the form, and that's prior to the 90 days when the 10% kicks in.
Right.
So sign. Okay. Anybody on the panel have a question on that? And my only question on the terms. So we're not adding any kind of a service charge for doing that. We're just doing that just to try and make the collections and
Right.
and get them in instead of them avoiding that altogether.
Right.
Okay. All right.
What's the current percentage of delinquent taxes?
I am at 99% collection, so I have like a 1%.
Kind of hard to beat that.
Well, especially on the ones that you've been able to find too. I know we've talked about that
Right.
somewhat at length. As far as the properties that are currently listed on back taxes, where can the public find them online?
We have a website, which is www.pickenscountygatax.com. They can go on there and pull it up. It gives you a choice of pulling it by the name, bill number, map number. You can look and find it there. It pulls up. You can enter the last name if you want to. It'll pull up everybody with that last name, and you can see who's paid and who hasn't.
Okay. All right. And I want to clarify that on that website. It's www.pickenscounty.gatax.gov. Okay.
.com.
.com. Okay. All right. Yeah, just twist around too. Okay. That because I think that some of the public may not be looking at the correct website, so we will post that on our Facebook and on the GOP website so that we have a good
Right.
one.
The website that they have been looking at is the state tax website. It's not the county.
Oh, okay. So it's a pass through.
Right.
It just shows Pickens County under the Georgia.
Right.
That's
It's
the
like
reason.
income tax and motor fuel, that kind of thing. It's not property tax.
Okay, yeah, because that explains maybe some of the disconnect is they've been going to the county website and saying that it's not listed, and the tax.com instead of .gov. Okay, that helps. Okay. As far as online payments, another question that came up in that same thing as far as questions. If a taxpayer owes, I just use Muskogee County because it's easy to say. If a builder or a land property owner lives in Muskogee County and they bought in one of our resort areas up here and they never built on it, can they go online and make their payment online for the taxes at
Yes,
that?
they can.
Now that website is.
Same website.
It is the
Same
state.
website. They can make. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the.
You said the state site.
Yeah.
Your site is the site that they can do that on.
Right. County.
Okay, so that website name is not gatax.com.
It is.
It is. Okay.
Right. They
so
can
it
go
is
on that website and make their payment.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. And form of payment there?
Credit cards is most of what they do online.
PayPal?
PayPal, we have a bill me later plan that they can, we get our money up front from PayPal. They in turn do payments to PayPal for 6 months. They do charge a 2.2% fee to use that, but they're not supposed to charge them interest or penalties. for that 6-month period. Now, after that, they will charge interest and penalty.
But that would allow somebody who's delinquent to get them paid, even if they didn't have the full amount. They could do it through their PayPal account.
Right.
Okay, it gives them more options. Options instead of excuses. Right, that's good. All right. Some counties are late filing their tax digest by August 1st. The question is really, how many years has Pickens County needed an extension for the tax digest, and what were the reasons?
Every year since I have been there, we have had to send for an extension on the digest.
Okay.
There's a process where the assessor's office sends out the assessment notices, and they allow 45 days for any appeals. Then we send out, I do the consolidation sheets and pass that out to the counties, the school, the cities. The county and school board have to set their millage rate. They have to have meetings, and it's just time consuming. We have never really gotten the digest down by August the 1st, but we took it this year on September the 19th.
Okay. Okay. So, and we'll get into this when we start talking about it, Roy, as far as on that part of it, how we move through to get that digest consolidated to a form that the school board and everything can look at it, because, I know they're not going to have a special meeting for it. They're going to schedule their regular meetings. So.
And while you're on that subject, I'm pretty sure that House Bill 202 changed that date this year.
September the 1st.
It has been changed, and one of the biggest problems has been changes in legislative requirements through the years, but they never changed the submission date. But they have addressed that last year.
And what HB 202?
I believe it's HB 202 is going to change the submission date
It would
by
be
at least
September
30 days.
1st, I
Yeah.
think, instead of
September
August the 1st. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And really, the last question here from the citizens was, what is the Pickens County law, ordinance, or statute number for the senior executive tax exemption? How long has it been in effect, and does it differ from state law, if at all?
That's a Roy question. They do the exemptions.
I was not prepared to bring you that actual because it wasn't in the questions, but we do have copies of that in our office. It was in the late 90s when it was done. And yes, it's totally different from any state exemptions. State exemptions are very limited. Local exemptions vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it applies only to the local area.
All right. And the last part of that is, where can the public find this information as far as that, the ordinance? Is it posted on our county website prominently?
I'm pretty sure that we have gone on there and printed it from the legislative website, because that's where it was actually produced at, and I do have copies of it in the office.
Okay. That's probably something that we should, if it's possible to be done, maybe put it in a bulletin and put it on the county website in a spot where it could be easily found and referenced to.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Sharon, for answering those questions. And now, Mr. Roy,
Yes,
you and I had talked briefly about some of these and stuff, but I just want to start with the first one. And this seems to be a question that, even though people look at it, I don't think they quite understand how it breaks down. So hopefully we can put it out there in this format and get a little bit more clarity to it. What are the categories of the properties that are in the digest, as far as farmland, single family, commercial? Just kind of start at the bottom and just quickly run through those so we can have a little bit of an idea.
in the digest, you have your dig classes and your dig stratifications. The main real estate stratifications are A for agricultural. That's going to be your farm properties. The next one you're going to have is C for commercial properties. And that's going to be your stores, your business areas, and your urban areas. You're going to have E for exempt properties. That's going to be government-owned properties, churches, cemeteries, things of that nature. The next classification is going to be industrial, I for industrial properties. That's going to be your manufacturers, your Georgia Marbles, your old footwears, HD Lees, anything that's making goods is more of an industrial property than they are commercial property. The other one that not too many people are familiar with are public utility properties. And that's going to be all your power companies, your gas companies, your railroads, things like that. That's the public utility portion of the digest. Then the final big category is R for residential. Residential is houses, families, your labor force for your area, your retail customers for all those other classifications of properties, and as you'll hear many people talk, rooftops are what bring everybody in. So when you look at the digest on any particular year in any county in the state of Georgia, residential is always the biggest portion of any digest because it takes all of those properties along with your agricultural properties. That's your second largest stratification because believe it or not, farmers are people too and they have houses too. So your agricultural and your residential are what support those other classes, but those are your classifications on the digest.
Okay. All right. Good deal. And what's the timeline for citizens to reclassify their properties and the process that they must follow for that?
Okay. I think on your questions, I think 2 and 3 are going to be probably the same question. Each and every year, it's up to the property owners to return their property for this year's tax digest. Here's what that means. Could be I've got a new house. Could be I lost a house. Could be I changed the house that I had. Could be that I own more land. Or you apply for exemptions during that time period, or you change the use of your property. Used to, it was a small residential property. I've added 30 acres to it. It's now an agricultural property. So the return period is every year between January 1st and April 1st. It's also when all your businesses return their inventory and their assets. And with the personal property end, that changes from year to year. It can change. Most of your houses and homes stay pretty normal with few exceptions, but on your businesses, they can change quite a bit.
Okay. And just to clarify the difference to me between 2 and 3, I think on 3 is what we're talking about there with the process for them to dispute their tax assessment if they've sold off half of their 10 acres and somebody's built a house on the adjacent 5 they sold off. The 2 really to me is if I have a tract of land and I want to change the classification myself. Say I have 50 acres and I sold 25 off to Mr. Smith, and he's going to put an industrial application there or a commercial shopping center. That part of that process, how is that done in your office?
It's through the return process, kind of the same thing. A guy had a small tract that basically looked like residential property, and that was our digest classification. But because he physically changed it, he added to it, it's now a new animal. Same example that you used, he had one creature, he created a couple different. We will usually pick up on that change in use and change the digest classification.
Okay. But, and I guess the second part of that question for clarification, say that May 1st, I turn around and I sell a piece of property.
Good question.
And I'm going to ride out the residential zoning until the following January.
Now you used the Z word. We're not the zoning people. And I think that's a common misunderstanding. Digest classifications and everything have nothing to do with zoning. It's a whole different animal.
But the question came up that if somebody came into the county from outside and purchased a piece of property May 1st, and their intention was to do something different from how it's classified today, we're not physically the county, your office or the tax office are not going to know about it till the following January. You're not going to change.
Oh, yes, we are.
Okay.
When people purchase property, we will usually get the deed or the PT 61 probably within a few weeks of the transaction. Due to modern technology, instead of having to wait all year to key punch all the changes in, we actually have future year. So we're in there putting all these things in there. And the way the tax digest works, we compile it. Sharon makes it official when she publishes it and everybody does their levy, and that's the official digest. When you have splits and changes of ownership, it's not going to show up on that digest until the following year. That's literally how taxation works. It literally stays a year behind. When you get a tax bill in the fall, it's not for everything you built that year, it's for what you own January 1st. And the idea is everything is somewhere January 1st.
So we pay the taxes in arrears. We pay the taxes and insurance in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from the panel on that in particular? Okay. All right.
Now, while we're there, I'm going to touch on this. What we've just discussed is the return period for everybody to come in and update and tell us everything that's going on. What we do then, we're going to look at all those returns, make all the changes for this coming year's digest. Here's how we test that product. We send assessment notices. We will send assessment notices to every real property holder in Pickens County, Georgia. At that time, they've got 45 days to respond and say, no, you missed this. No, I don't have that. Oh, I don't agree with what you've just sent me. That's what we refer to as the appeal period. And that's a 45-day period. And going back to one of our earlier discussions about digest submission, when I first started working in this business, the period was 21 days. Then the legislature kicked it to 30, and then they kicked it to 45. And on top of that, there's other things that come off of that, which they have extended those time periods also. So that's really one of the reasons that the old legislation doesn't really meet today's standards.
Which, in the overall conversations with concerned citizens that brought this up, when you look at that January to April time frame, then the assessment period, then the 45-day grace period for them to come back. Well, we're already to the middle of the summer, and then no matter what the outcome it is, it's very easy to see how we're beyond the 365 days that everybody seems to be concerned with before it, quote, goes delinquent.
Correct.
So we're always about 18 months out realistically from that due date. So that helps to clarify that portion of the timeline. It really does. And then another question that came up is which we talked about, so how citizens can find their current tax assessment on the county website.
Pay attention.
Or say it slow. We're being recorded, so.
We have already touched on different websites and confusion from our customers. When people go to the county website, that's pickenscountyga.gov, you're not going to find anything about assessments or tax bills on that website. That's the governing authority and the people that are elected into that role. Okay? You're not going to find any links to Sharon's website or to ours. It's simply their information. Now, here is the official tax assessment on your property that's on the web. It's Sharon Troglin's website. It's pickenscountyga.tax.com. That is the official information for that year, ownership, description of property. Don't ever confuse any other website with that one. That is the official. That's what all the attorneys are using in their closings, their court cases. That is the gospel.
Okay.
Now, there's another website.
Oh, no.
We, in 2007, through looking at other counties and other areas, technology started coming along and things started changing. And what we decided to do is go with a vendor by the name of Q Public that put our information and other counties' information out on a very user-friendly website. We had an existing website, and we still do, tscmaps.com, that we use in-house for our camera system. It's our mapping information, okay? And people could go to it, and we had information, we had tax estimators. It was very useful, but you had to be more technically oriented to feel comfortable navigating. What Q Public brought to the game was it is so understandable, so user-friendly, and what Q Public does is like a Cadillac over Chevrolet. They throw lots of bells and whistles and things to make it prettier, to make it easier to understand, and you can just look at all kinds of things on the mapping information, everything. So that's what we put out in 2007. I would have never believed how much it would cut the traffic, the foot traffic into our office from all the professional people, the individual people, because it's now 24 hours a day in people's homes or in their businesses. People go to that site to get information. Listen to this disclaimer. We've got disclaimers all over this website. It is not your official thing. Sharon's website is. This is an informational site. And what people use it for other than their professional things, it's kind of like the Chamber of Commerce. If somebody lives somewhere else and they visited their friends up here, or they drove through coming to a festival and they think, boy, it's great, they can literally go on that website and pull things up and look at it. They can look at pictures of buildings and houses and aerial photography and all those types of things. So that's what Q Public is. Watch for the disclaimers on there, but it is a great informational tool for people that are trying to discover information about properties. We have really worked hard to put extra sales data from previous years, previous owners, to help people when they're dealing with properties.
Are you using any drones in pictures nowadays?
We have two of our Board of Assessors in training using zones. Now, it's not officially for the office.
You just said zones. You mean drones.
Drones.
Right.
Now,
You said the Z word.
Brad Bledsoe and David Smith have drones, and we think they're using them. We saw Brad in the newspaper. We also have a member named Bart Conley that's threatened to shoot them down if they come over his house.
Bart was here
I
earlier.
know Bart, and he will do that.
So I think having a varied interest on there really helps us. But do I anticipate that later on for a lot of different situations? Yes, I do. Right now, when you see our aerial photography, it is fixed photography that happens. It's a duration of time that it takes, and we don't really refresh that but every few years. It is extremely helpful, and when we get our new product up and going in a few months on the website, you won't believe how pretty Pickens County is going to look. But yes, I do anticipate drones somewhere in the future, but not at this time.
And with anything that's high brass, it works. So anyway. All right. Well,
The ceramics work pretty well too.
That's true.
Now, one other thing that we do on that website, where we're sitting here having a roundtable discussion trying to educate people on processes. One of the great things about Q Public, they let us put all kinds of informational things. If you start looking at all the buttons, you can read for a long time. There's a lot of explanation. There's a lot of understanding. And one of the great things on there, we have borrowed a video from the Association of County Commissioners for the state of Georgia that explains the process, the assessment process, the billing process. It's a short video that's one of the quickest educational tools you've ever seen. If you've never clicked on it, go on there and click on it. I think you'll be impressed.
Great, great. Well, again, I want to thank both of y'all for being on. I feel like we got hopefully some clarity, and I think the distinction between some of the websites will hopefully help the public to go in there and look at the information and answer some of their questions, and maybe help them formulate questions that they can turn around and I know your office is easy to get through and get to via email and telephone, and same way with yours, Lawrence. So I really appreciate y'all being on. Really
Thank
do.
you.
Thanks
So,
for coming,
Thank
y'all.
you.
introduce Mickey Tuck, our friend from Floyd County, beautiful city of Rome. Mickey, thank you for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Mickey is running for the 14th District representative position. And Mickey, what I'd like to do is start off the conversation with just let you tell me about yourself personally and your experience, work, and then in the political realm.
Okay. Well, I'm from Floyd County, Silver Creek, which I'll just tell everybody from Rome, they're more familiar with where that's at, but I'm in Floyd County, so that's south part of the county. I've been living there for about 36 years. I've been married to my wife, Sandy, for 35. I work for Gildan Yarns down in Cedartown, which is in Polk County, so I'm all around. I've been there for 17 years in September, and before then I was in maintenance at Lindale Manufacturing there in Lindale, also in Floyd County for 11 years prior to that. So I'm a longtime resident of Floyd County and this area, and I just love this area. I've been all through the 14th district and met a lot of great people, and I just have a passion for the 14th district, for the conservatives of the 14th district, and I really want to. I feel they really need the representation that they deserve and that they've asked for, which, in my opinion, and I feel like they have not gotten.
Okay. And as far as what you've been involved with the local party there in Floyd County or in the rest of the 14th district, as far as your political activities prior to this run for the office that you're running for now?
Prior to this run, I ran for office one other time, and that was back in 1992. I ran for a post on the Floyd County Commission, and that was back when being a Republican wasn't cool. Everything was still pretty much owned and operated by the Democrats. So I've been a long time Republican. First president I ever voted for was Ronald Reagan. With the Floyd County GOP, I'm a card-toting member of the Floyd County GOP and attend their meetings when I'm not working. So my involvement with them has been pretty limited, but I do stay involved. I'm really a social media guru, I guess you could say. I do most of my conversations via social media, whether it be mostly on Facebook. I have my own Rome Republican Facebook page because sometimes my opinions don't agree with some of the local Republicans in my own county. So I'm kind of I'm a Republican, but I'm kind of a rebel at that also.
All right. That's I think you would fit in just fine with our crowd here. That's the reason we have the disclaimer at the beginning of the show, which I'll say again. Opinions and discussions here are by the guest and the panelists, not Pickens County GOP or the sponsor. We want an open, honest format. So, with that being said, as far as issues on the state level, especially in North Georgia, when you win in the position, what would be things that you would plan or aspire to do to change where we're at now in Northwest Georgia, particularly in your district?
Well, one thing I'd really like to see for Northwest Georgia is I'm a blue collar worker. I believe bringing manufacturing back to our counties and 14th district is the road to prosperity. That's the way it was before NAFTA was passed. I'm a victim of NAFTA. I'm all for free trade, but I'm for a smart trade and fair trade. I believe in working for and supporting the working people. And when you do the proper things, Washington D.C. will do the proper things to make it the climate favorable for people to, either for foreign companies to come here to build, or to encourage, American entrepreneurs to build, to supply jobs. That would be great, whether it's manufacturing, or small business. I'm a big proponent of small business, and that's one thing I see in Washington, D.C. is that and even with the TTP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, it doesn't allow our small business people to be on the fair level or playing field with the big corporations. The way I look at TTP has been written by big business, so it's going to benefit big business. And when you benefit big business, it doesn't benefit the small entrepreneur, the small business person. Free enterprise is what built this nation. And when you come up these, whether it was NAFTA or CORS, the Korean trade deal, which Tom Graves voted for, and it's cost, last I looked, about 75,000 jobs here in America. And the TTPs, to me, is going to be NAFTA on steroids. So that's how one of my plans when I go to Washington, D.C., if y'all support and elect me, is that I'm working for you. I'm not working for corporate America. I'm not working for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm working for you. I'm working for the small businessman. And when the working man prospers and the small businessman prospers, these 14 districts prosper, the state will prosper, and the United States will prosper.
Okay. Something as I travel around, because I'm fortunate that I actually get to work in the 14th district as well, even though I live here in the Pickens County that's split between 9th and the 14th. The conversation that I'm hearing more about is the inland port and also the 411 corridor expansion there. Give me some insight on where you stand on the inland port issue and as well as the 411 corridor.
Well, the big issue with the inland port is I have friends that are on both sides of that issue, and I understand both sides of the issue. One side looks at it, well, it's going to bring jobs, and some people say, well, it's only going to bring 20 jobs, and some people say, well, it's going to bring a lot of traffic and noise and pollution. And I'm all about bringing in jobs and bringing prosperity, and it's to me, it's really going to be a county issue, a state issue more than it's a federal issue. Now, I can look at the sides. Now, if I know people that's got churches right there next to where it's going to build, and got homes right there next to where it's going to be built. But if I was in their shoes, I would be 100% against it, the whole time. But if you look at anything about, what benefits it bring to the county, I'll be honest with you, I've heard more. And I believe in being honest and not skipping around the issue, but I've heard more bad things that are bring to the county than it would good things. And so, if I was the representative of that county, the majority of the people called my office and said, is there any way you can stop this? And if it was the majority of the people that called and said, can you stop this? As your representative, as a servant of the people for that county, I'd have to do what I could do to help them. If they didn't want it, then I would do the work to help them not get it. If the majority said that they did want it, then I would help them do that. Because really, it's that county issue and a state issue. But if there's any way I could help them, whichever they want to go, that's what I'd do to help them.
Okay. And of course, the 411 travels through several of the counties in the 14th. As far as that expansion, how do you see that as far as the benefit for the 14th? You feel like that's a good move to get those transport trucks off of the 75 corridor and get them around Chattanooga as well?
Well, if it goes through, from what I understand, it's not a done deal yet, and because they're still having meetings and things on it. But if it becomes a done deal, that it's definitely going to be there, it's definitely going to be built, and I would see there would be no other choice but to build that 4-lane corridor in and out of there to help it be successful and help it to prosper. I mean, if it's going to be there, then we need then it needs to be. We need to do everything we can do to make it successful. Now, I know a lot of people don't. They're not going to want that extra traffic and things, but like it or not, sometimes when things like that happen, we just have to go. We just have to go with it, and especially if it's if it's a approved deal and it's a done deal, then we need to do everything we can to make it successful.
Okay. All right. I want to turn around to the panel and stuff. Greg, anything that you'd like to pose to
Yeah,
Mickey?
Mickey, I think the biggest challenge for anybody that wants to go to Washington today is staying true to who they are. And it's really tough when you start reading your own newspaper clippings to not get a big old head and start thinking, well, I know better than those people back there, and I don't have to listen to them. And that happens more often than you'd want to know, especially in Washington, D.C. So how are you going to stay grounded? What's your plan?
I tell you, how I'll stay grounded is the way I was raised. My dad and my parents, and my dad, he was a restaurant manager, and I started washing dishes out of Bonanza, if anybody remembers what Bonanza Steakhouse.
Good chop steak.
When I was 12 years old, and that really makes a lot of people, you started working when you was 12 years old. Well, back then when I was a kid, a male could get a worker's permit from the school board at 10 years old, and a girl could get a worker's permit at 12 years old. So me and my sister, I got a twin sister, and we started working at Bonanza when we was both 12 years old. And my parents also brought me up in church, and my dad especially taught me, and my mom, that to be a man of integrity. And I believe when you're raised to be a man of integrity, and you just pursue that path, your whole life, that's what'll keep you grounded. If you know integrity is above all things. I was in a conversation with someone today, and about some things going on in Washington, D.C., and they said, well, if you went up there and fought for these certain things you're talking about you're fighting for, you would lose. And I said, well, whether you win or lose, it's about integrity. That you're staying true to yourself, that you're staying grounded, and I'm also a very stubborn person. And I know there's a lot of games and things that goes on up in Washington, D.C., and I don't know what happens to everybody that goes up there. They toot that conservative horn, and they go up there and they toot it for maybe 6 months to a year, and after that they quit tooting that conservative horn. I just feel with all confidence and without hesitation that if I went up there, I'd be able to stay grounded and not fall into that watching the machine. We've seen about 30 or 40 guys that are standing up there strong right now to their conservative roots and standing on their integrity, and Barry Loudermilk and Jody Heiss are two of them that are doing that. And I believe without a shadow of doubt, I believe I could go up there and do the same thing. And I credit my parents and the way I was raised to how I'd be able to do that.
Right.
Good deal.
David, I know that you've got another engagement you got to go to. Anything that you'd like to bring?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
All right. How about Bill?
Not really. I mean, just I guess go along with what Craig. When you get up there, I think that there's a lot of guys that go up there as honorable men, such as yourself, and they have the best intentions. But
You know what they say about the road to hell?
It travels through
it
Atlanta.
goes through Washington, D.C.
No, it's paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
And it goes through.
And it goes through Washington, D.C.
It goes to Atlanta, yeah.
Well, yeah. And that's another subject, but anyhow. With all the lobbyists and special interest money and what have you, and the press you'll get from the establishment, all I can say is, God bless you, and I hope you stay true to your word. And even if that means you only serve one term, at least you can hang your head high and say, I did what I said I was going to do. So, best of luck to you.
A lot of people, they talk about that and say, well, once you go up there, you'll get the pressure from the lobbyists and the special interest and the big money. That, once you get up there, they'll say, well, if you don't do what we ask of you to do, then we're going to give our money to a guy or a lady that will come up here and do what we're going to do. But as I've been around the 14th district for the past several months, pretty much since February, I've been going around. Everyone I've talked to, they're looking for that person that will go up there and represent them, and like we was talking about, stand for their values, stand for the conservative principles, stand on the Republican principles that we've seen that many up there seem to have gotten away from. And I feel like if you stand on your principles, the only votes that matter are the people that you represent. And I feel with all confidence with everybody that I've met in the 14th district that they're intelligent, They're informative. They, they're able to recognize truth from a lie, somebody that's honest from somebody that's dishonest. And I believe, we've seen that happen in some other races where they try to throw big money into a candidate to try to overthrow somebody that's gone against the establishment up in Washington, D.C. And I believe as long as you do the will of the people, that you'll have no problem being reelected if that's what you desire.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, I'm kind of disgruntled with my representative from the 9th district. I think he went up there a few years ago with best of intentions, and he's become run-of-the-mill Republican. And like you said, you hit the nail on the head. You stay true to your word and engaged with your constituents. You answer to them, not the power structure in Washington, D.C. Because if you stay engaged with your local voters, they can send however much money they want to your opposition. Your local voters are going to know who you are and what you stand for.
And see, that's one thing I've seen missing. I'll go to every GOP meeting, every Tea Party meeting that I can on the days that I'm off, and I hardly ever see my representative unless he calls him up and tells him I'm coming and I want to speak. I have countless people in the Republican Party within the 14th district, in the various counties, and even some chairmen, say, well, he never comes, he never shows up. So, when you're not engaged and you're not there, big talking to people one-on-one, face-to-face, then you are going to lose your way. I mean, it's like if you just listen to this one crowd all the time and they're patting you on the back, then you think you're doing a great job, but you need to come home and go talk to the people at home and see whether if they're patting you on the back. And if you come home and your people in your counties and your district aren't patting you on the back, then you need to it's time to have a soul check and reevaluate what you're doing in Washington, D.C.
So I got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So let's start out. So let's start out with the split county question. So Pickens is in a unique situation being split county. So do you believe that we get proper representation out of being a split county? And do you like being a split? Do you agree with split county?
Well, I'll tell you what, I can testify to that because where I live at, Polk County, the whole county, not Polk County, but Floyd County, the whole county is in the 14th district. But my part of Floyd County is in the 14th state district, which is represented by Christian Coomer. And so we're basically in no man's land. We never see Christian. We never hear from Christian. And so this, it's not picking. I'm not trying to pick on Christian here. I'm just letting you relate to know that I understand about being a split county. I would rather see Pickens County in one district, either the 9th or the 14th. But if I'm elected, I feel like I will go there and I will feel like I'm representing the entire Pickens County. Because you're all neighbors, y'all go to church together, y'all's kids go to school together, y'all work together, and so everybody within the county then will talk with each other. So, I would like to see Pickens County in either one or the other, just because of my own thoughts and opinions that I'm in a split state district.
Okay, so a caveat to that. Now I want to get more to the federal side because I know a lot of times the state and local races and lines can get very blurry. I mean, look down at Cherokee; they have 5 representations down there. But anyways, so do you feel that Floyd is a good representation of what Pickens is, or does Pickens fit more along the lines of its eastern side of the 14th district or 9th district?
Are you talking about as far as their thoughts on Washington D.C., thoughts on conservatism?
You talked about the community and this idea of going to church and schools and I know I just went to Rome not too long ago for something and it seemed like it was a fairly long way out. And I almost imagine myself, as being here in Pickens, I've only gone to Rome personally 3 times in my entire life. And I find myself being pushed more and more to the east side of what Dawson, Forsyth, and in those areas bring. Now, that's not to also say somebody like in Athens isn't relatable to me either. But I find almost a disconnect between somebody who's living in Rome and somebody who's in Pickens. Now, I agree with you. It probably needs to be one or the other, but yeah.
And one thing to look at too is that I know it'd take just about a act of God to get it done, but I would really like to see the districts made smaller, where you'd have that one representative represent a smaller number of people, so there would be less of a disconnect. And because I mean, from Rome's pretty well centered. It takes me about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes to get to Dade County. It takes me about an hour and 45 minutes to get here. And these are probably the two furthest points that I've had to go to. If I go to the south part of Harrison County, it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour. So Floyd County, to me, is driving time-wise, is pretty much about central. And you know, and I have no problem traveling from county to county, going to places to meet the people. And you know, each county has their own unique style, their own unique personality. But I find that all of them are concerned about the same things when it comes to Washington D.C. And actually, you know, that's one thing I've told people. If nothing else, on this campaign that I've enjoyed the most is meeting the people, meeting different people, going to the different counties, meeting elected officials, meeting veterans in each county and Tea Parties in each county, Republican Party members in each county. And like I said, each one is unique, but I feel like I'd have no problem representing each and every person. And even though there's a little diversity in between the different counties, the majority, most people are all pretty well, I think, like-minded.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, one more quick one.
Okay. So huge speakers going on right now. Debate upon who's going to be speaker and representing the Republican Party. Give me your short elevator speech on where you stand right now. On if you were elected today, if that was your decision, where would you fall?
Well, there's hardly any name. I mean, the only name that's popping up right now is Paul Ryan. And with the conditions that he's put on, which I think he's purposely putting those conditions on, is that I think he doesn't really want the job. And if he does take the job, it's going to be on his grounds and on his grounds only. You know, when they say, when he takes away, you got to do away with being able to make a motion to vacate the chair, I would have to go totally against that. I could not vote for him if that was one of his conditions. And, you know, the big issue here in the 14th District, too, is on immigration. You know, he's, from what I've read and what I've heard, you know, he's pro, for immigration, for legalizing a lot of the illegal immigrants we got here. And so right now, I could not find myself voting for Paul Ryan. And he's the only one that's put his name up right now. I mean, you got Daniel Webster, the Freedom Caucus put up for him, but if you look at his conservative scores, they're very, very low. And so I couldn't be real supportive of Daniel Webster anyway. And, you know, we was having a discussion today with some people, you know, who is there up there that could get 100% of the vote like they're looking for? And I'll be honest with you, right now, I don't think there is. Whether we need to look outside of the box and find someone outside to be speaker, to come in as kind of an arbitrator between the moderate faction, the established faction, and the conservative faction, I really don't have an answer for that. To be honest with you, it's just it's still, to me, it's so much in the air who is going to be speaker or who will be the speaker.
Nancy Pelosi has offered to help.
Yeah. And you know, I've had people throw that and say, well, you know, you said you wouldn't vote for Kevin McCarthy. You know, well, who do you want? Nancy Pelosi? You know, a lot of people don't understand. You got to have 218 plus one vote to be Speaker of the House. It is not who gets the majority of the votes, it's who's Speaker of the House. You got to have that 218 plus one. So if anybody tells you that, don't listen.
All right. Well, real quick, Mickey, we're almost out of time.
Okay.
Give if citizens want to get to your website, Facebook, want to donate to your campaign, what address, emails would we send to?
Okay, you can go. You can find everything on my Facebook page if you go to Mickey Tuck 2016. That's on Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, I have a website. It's MickeyTuck2016.com/nationbuilder.com. That's that right. Take notes on that. MickeyTuck2016/nationbuilder.com. But all that information is on my Facebook if you go to my Facebook page. And if you want to email me, you can email me at mickeytuck2016@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you for being on. Thank you, panelists. Again, thank you, Sharon Troglin and Roy Dobbs,